Hey, what's up? I'm Sophie K here for Loudwire. Now, one of the hot topics at the moment is race. Everyone's talking about it, but it's getting very confusing, especially when you look in rock and metal. I've seen in comments that people are confused. They don't want to be racist, but then on the other hand, they don't quite understand why what they're doing is being called racist. So here at Loudwire, we wanted to make a difference and have an open conversation where we remind ourselves that we're all part of one community. So we're going to be having a Zoom chat with global icon William DuVall. I'm also going to be speaking to vocalist and outspoken activist Jason Aalon from Fever 333 and one of the hottest badass bands around, Nova Twins. They're all going to be in this Zoom chat and we're going to discuss everything from whether racism exists in rock all the way to global police brutality. Now, I want to make something really clear. We're all in this together. We're all fans of rock together. This is the place that misfits and oddballs come to have a place to exist. This isn't an issue of black versus white. This is an issue about racism versus anti-racism and how we can end it within ourselves, within the industry. So I'm going to try and remain as impartial as possible and try and bring opinions from both sides of the fence. But stay nice in the comments and hopefully we'll all learn something. So we have a great group of people here to talk about the issues within rock and Black Lives Matter and how that has affected people with melanin in the rock scene. And one of the things that I saw, I went deep into comment sections, which trust me was a hard time.
Yeah.
And one of the things I saw time and time again is that people say, racism doesn't exist in rock. We love everybody. We accept everybody. We don't care whether you're black, white, blue or green. Everyone is welcome. William, what would you say to somebody if they said, does racism exist in rock?
Of course it does, because it exists everywhere. And in my experience, it's very rare that someone will admit to racism of any kind. You know, you see through virtually every era that there's a mixture of overt acts of violence or exclusion mixed with denial, you know, and that's been kind of the Kafkaesque situation that we've found ourselves in for centuries now. And so if someone asks the question, does it exist in rock? Well, yeah, of course it does, because it exists in all facets of the culture. It exists in all facets of American life, and it exists in some form in virtually every country I've ever visited, you know.
I think that's what's powerful, and that's why the Black Lives Matter movement really did spread across the globe. So Nova Twins here are from the UK. Would you say that racism exists in rock?
100%, yeah. And you know, it's so obvious because you don't see any much diversity in rock, and that is your main question. Why is it like that? You can't just be like, we accept everyone, because obviously not.
When you're looking at the bills, obviously we've played the bills, we've been on these festivals, we look at the playlist and we aspire to be in certain places, but we can never, for our personal experiences, we can't fit on them bills because of the way we look, because Black people are not acknowledged for their contribution to rock music at all anyway. It's been denied. And I think what you were saying, William, is the denial is the problem, and not hearing out someone with the experience. And that way of thinking is really disruptive. And that was the whole kind of silencing people, silencing. No, it doesn't exist. Are you saying that to me as a Black person? No, it doesn't exist, when I'm telling you my experiences. So I think the silences is really like a damaging part of it, and not hearing each other out.
Jason, have you heard people saying that racism doesn't exist in rock? Because you are so outspoken in your music.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've heard it. Yeah, I've heard it. Never have I believed it, and that's due to experience. But I think just taking from and echoing both or all 3 points that have been made by Nova Twins and Will is there's a couple things, right? And I think they're all hinged upon each other and they're incumbent. So one of them is that's your privilege. As a white person in rock music, that's your privilege to say and willfully ignore the racism that structurally has been designed on the outside environment and has been taken and assimilated itself into rock music. After rock music was co-opted by people that don't look like black people, even though it was created by people that are black people, that is your privilege to say that this doesn't exist, first and foremost. And that's just what it is, okay? That's your privilege to believe that it doesn't, because that inconveniences you. That makes you feel less accepting. It makes you feel less alternative, which is what you wanted to believe. You founded rock music on alternative, subversive, and lateral thought. That's your privilege, first and foremost. So no, it does exist, and that's what I would say to those people. And then secondly, as Nova Twin stated, the thing is we don't have a space in rock music where we feel comfortable. That is by design. That's not because black people just all of a sudden say, you know what, we're gonna stop messing with rock music and we're gonna create something else. Every time we have to evolve, every time we have to change what we do, is by necessity. You know what I'm saying? It was because we have to. We always have to do this thing, and then it becomes cool. Because for better or for worse, we do things cool. I'm not saying it's cooler than y'all. I'm not saying it's better than y'all. I'm just saying we do things cool. And for anyone to say that we don't is a lie, because again, it's been co-opted. Okay, so first, look, if I got to be the guy on this panel to do this, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be the guy who just says it what I think like it is. But first and foremost, it's your privilege to believe that racism doesn't exist. You can take Will's point. It exists everywhere. It's a granular thing that particles around everything we do, and it comes into the scene. And the Kafka-esque, I love that one, Will, is that we are metamorphosizing into something that we think is great. It's actually we some cockroaches at the end of the day, because we're not really going into what we should be doing, and we're not looking at this the right way.
So one of the things that you said there was the word privilege, which I think has come up time and time again. Now, even when somebody said to me, you have the privilege of being light-skinned with colorism, at first, my first reaction was like, privilege? Hang on, I've experienced racism my whole life. And so a lot of people have that reaction to the word privilege. Now, it took me, I'll hold up my hands, it took me a moment to go, oh, well, okay, I can understand that. William, what are your thoughts on the word privilege and why so many people go, huh?
Well, it's just what you said. I think it immediately puts one on a kind of a defensive footing. But, you know, we have to understand too that as human beings, we exist in large part by hierarchy. It's just an innate characteristic that we want to put things in some sort of hierarchical order. And then from that, you know, you can easily devolve into these kinds of agendas that will get imposed upon our innate instinct to build things into hierarchy. So, I mean, if say 500 years ago, when Portugal and you know, the Dutch and some of these other folks were saying, hey, we want to, you know, in Spain, you know, they were saying, we want to check out what's going on across the water there and see, first of all, can we make it? Second of all, what's there? You know what I mean? And then they get there finally, and then they see what's happening, and they go, oh, we want some of this. No matter of fact, we want all of this. Mm-hmm. Then see the innate hierarchical thing kicks in, and they say, well, these people, they've just got these kinds of weapons. Well, we've got these kinds of weapons. Well, surely they must want to be ruled, right? I mean, and if they don't want to, well, we'll show them that it's actually better for them if we rule. And, you know what I'm saying? There's all these justifications that happen. And so when you look at how it can happen on a macro level like that, you know, where a whole continent sort of gets, you know, completely remade, you know, and then you can see how it can kick in instantly when you're confronted as an individual with whatever your particular version of that privilege might be. You know what I mean? I mean, I have certain privileges as a man, you know, that you may not have, and that, you know, the Nova twins may not have in certain situations. And, you know, anytime someone's confronted with whatever that might be, you know, I get the thing all the time of, you don't look just black. You look like you have something else mixed in with you.
I think
What are you? What are you? What are you really? You know what I mean? I get that all over the world. And I've, you know, and again, you know, I just sort of try to get it from a thing of, you know, fly above it, you know, because there's beauty everywhere and everybody's cool in their own way. And so I just, you know, I remember one time in the early 90s, I jumped into a cab, and the cat driving was he was a Pakistani, and he looked, I mean, he started talking in his language because he thought I was Pakistani, you know. And I said, well, man, you know what, brother, I don't, you know what I mean? I dig the music, you know. I can't speak the language, you know, but yeah, I mean, and we got into a great conversation about Pakistani music at the end of the day. But I mean, that thing of what are you really, and you don't look this and you don't look that. Well, yeah, I am mixed with a lot of different things, and that's fine, you know. But the black part of it is I'm so honored by it, man.
That's really
not trading
interesting.
it for anything, you know.
It's really interesting when you talk about being mixed, because I think that's a really important factor that we can also talk about here as this group here, and about people don't see anything wrong with asking you where you're from. So over to the Nova twins now, have you had that experience of people ever asking you, where are you from? Where are you really from?
Oh, 100%, like all growing up. Like that was like the main question with somebody new. They'd be like, where are you from? And I'll be like, I'm from London. And they'll be like, no, but where are you from? Like, and I have to be like, you have to really break down like the family history tree, and it's just like, why can't you just be a mixed person from London? Why has it got to be this whole kind of explanatory
conversation?
It's just like,
and I guess it goes to show that's their preconception. They're seeing your color and your look first, because that's the first thing they say to you,
and that you're alienated from where you're born,
you know.
I would expect a lot of people in London are from Europe, or their parents are from Europe, but no one ever goes, where are you from?
I'm originally from France or Sweden. You just, you know, you're from Brixton or wherever.
But it kind of works on all sides also with the whole being mixed. I think there's also a preconception that a particular person maybe will look like, oh, you must be Jamaican English. And maybe for me personally, someone will be like, well, are you mixed? Because you're quite dark for a mixed chick, you know. And it'll be like, you know, there's all these preconceptions that are on every side of it, actually.
And on all aspects, like I've been told like I'm not black because I'm so pale, you must be white, and I'm like, I'm black, and they're like, no, because you're almost as white as me. How can you be black? They're like, am I black?
Tell that to my hair when I'm trying to brush it.
My hair was big. That literally didn't come into their mind at all, and it's just like the most hurtful thing ever. It's just like, how are you sitting there having to explain your heritage to somebody?
And I think that's a really important point. And Jason, maybe this is something you can expand on, is a lot of the time when people think about racism, and racism is brought up in rock, it's shot down because people will say things like, we love everybody, because at the end of the day, they don't say this extreme white supremacist things. But what the Nova twins there are talking about is microaggressions. And they said it hurts. Can you explain your experience of microaggressions and how that's felt?
Yeah, I mean, look, especially again, coming from like a mixed background, right? It's like you spend, due to social construct, right? Pretty much all around the world. a real quick historical, like the lineage. In the onset of like the 17th century, we was like, all right, we got to figure out what to call these people because we want to assimilate people into religion. Okay, eventually we want to assimilate them into this thing that is a power structure, leverage, so we can use their bodies. Okay, so we got to call them something. Okay, because back in the day, especially here in the U.S., you could be Creole, you know what I'm saying? If you go to Brazil, there's like 200 different things that you could call yourself if you look like Will, Amy, Georgia, me, Sophie. You'd be called all these different. It's a category, right? So for me, my experience is very much and this is statistically speaking, very much a Black experience in America, right? And then I moved myself, or my parents actually got me into areas demographically that were different from where I was living, like school. And that's when I started to experience, having like more white friends, environmentally. And I was there and people would tell me, oh, you look like this. The one about comparing the skin is a hard one for me. You know what I'm saying? Because I still get people in my circle being like, like, I'm Black. I'm like, it's not funny. None of that is funny to me, and it's probably not funny to anybody on this panel because you're not Black in the way that we've been told we are Black. See, we would very happily give up all the bad things that came with that term. We'd happily give you that Blackness. Go ahead. You want to be Black? Then walk in these shoes, walk through the fire, feel the policy, feel the relegation. Go ahead if you want to do that, but you don't want to do that. So don't come here when it's funny or like convenient for you to say, I got a tan, I kind of look like Jason, I'm light-skinned too, I'm Black. Don't do that, because what you're doing is you are taking away from everything we had to do just to maintain our sanity, our ability to continue on in this world. Music, I'm talking about in this world. You're taking that away from us when you say, oh, look at me, I'm Black too, but you haven't had the experience. And I'm not saying it charters Blackness when there are plenty of poor white people. There's plenty of people that have suffered and throughout all cultures. But by way of policy and systemically speaking, there is a very, very specific group around the world that contains a certain amount of melanin that has had this experience that we share.
And that I joined Alice in Chains, and we were first starting to tour the world. I mean, within the first couple of years of that taking off, this guy, Barack Obama, started really making waves on the national scene. And I always say that it was very fortunate for me to experience all the things that I had to experience taking on this role with Alice, and at the same time being able to watch this other guy go through all the things that he was going through, both as a candidate and then when he won as president, not just once but twice. And anytime it was good for me just on a very personal level, because anytime I thought I had a bad day, all I'd have to do is turn on the TV or turn on the computer and go, well, like that guy's having a bad day. I mean, yeah, little perspective, and it's all good. Just keep on trucking, and watching someone like him handle it all with such grace and such just style and such swag and such coolness. And again, this is regardless of any political opinion anyone might have. One thing you cannot take away from that guy is he was cool under indescribable pressure. And I think that kind of example was one that I always wanted to set for myself for all of my life and through everything that I've gone through prior to Alice. And it was certainly a standard that I was going to hold myself to no matter what, once I did join Alice and once I was visited with all of these different kinds of intrusions that that one might expect, and some you can never expect. But the thing was to always just slice through it, you know.
Can you give us an example of a time?
Huh?
Can you give us an example of a time of something that you, like, what kind of experience? Because I think for a lot of people watching, they'll go, well, what kind of experiences?
Oh man, if you could ever look at my inbox sometimes throughout the years, I mean, you would see just some of the most horrendous language, and you'd see some of the most horrendous threats, and you'd see just kind of ugliness that is, you just wonder what's going through people's minds, you know? And it's very much akin to the kinds of things that when I would read about Sammy Davis Jr. or Nat King Cole or you know, anyone like that. You know, I study history and I try to draw from it whatever power I can draw from it, and whatever examples I can draw from it. But it's those kinds of things. It's all kinds of ugly language. It's all kinds of ugly. If you show up here, we're going to do this. If you do that, we're going to do this. And if you've ruined my favorite band because of your blackness, you know what I mean? Not said in those words, said in much more ugly language. You know, I used to get a lot of people giving me the 1,000-yard stare, you know what I mean? And I come out on stage, thousands of people, right? And you'd always have these several cats, you know, giving you the 1,000-yard stare, you know, where you're just looking like, okay, what am I going to do with this? What is this guy? You know, does he have something? Is he concealing something? Is he concealing a weapon? You have to keep your eye out. You can't just do your job. You have to keep an eye out for this other stuff. I once had a guy in a bull ring in Spain. We played a bull ring in Madrid, and it was the first year, so it was really early on, and there was a free show, so they let any and everybody into this gigantic bull ring, and we come out on stage, and again, you know, there's thousands of people having a great time, and then there's this one guy who made his way down front just to tell me everything he thought about me in Spanish, and you know, I know a little bit of Spanish. I know some other languages better, but I could definitely discern that what he was saying was not nice. And it was really like this violent look on his face. And I had to deal with this, you know, through several songs. It was just, oh God, this guy again, you know, and he would scream at me during songs, he'd scream at me after songs, in between songs. And so, and again, I was looking like, is he holding something? You know, am I gonna have to deal with this? Like, eventually I just got right down in his face and made a point of, it was during a song, and I changed a couple lyrics, and then I got right down in his face, and I just laughed as loud as I could into the mic right in his face.
When I speak out and say there aren't enough Black artists around, the thing I hear time and time again is A, Black people don't want to make this music, or B, maybe the music isn't good enough. And you hear that again, time and time again, with not only Black people, but with women as well, that maybe if they wrote better music, they would get signed. I can see Jason is like, he's like, no.
It is,
And you guys have come up through the scene relatively recently. Do you think that is a fair statement for someone to make? What's been your experience?
It's not fair, because even through this whole Black Lives Matter movement, it's literally pushed all these alternative Black artists into the light, and creative. It's just like, they were always there, but did it really take a whole global world movement for you to actually pay attention and want to look for them? Because they're there. We had to create our own scene to feel a part of something, because we've been pushed aside from so many different things, whether that's being on a playlist, the bigger playlist. It'll be like, oh, you know, they look a bit hip hop, so why would they be on this playlist? I don't think.
Do you honestly get that? They look a bit hip hop? Yeah,
like, or pop, or, you know, because they perceive us, maybe we should be R&B, or we should just be rap artists or dancers, especially being women. You know, it's just like, they wouldn't ever think, okay, they play heavy music, they can fit on this playlist.
I also think a lot of people have said that to us, like a preconception is, you're pop, your R&B, because that's what Black people do, apparently, you know.
Especially women.
Yes, especially women, you know.
I can't imagine a band less R&B, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
Because that does happen a lot. There is a real thing about pigeonholing. And if someone isn't Black, they won't have experienced the experience of being pigeonholed. Because I've had the same experiences of like, you don't look rock enough to present this show. And I'm like, oh, what is it? Is it my Paul Booth tattoos that are just too mainstream? I've got a list. But then that happens. And these experiences are things that happen a lot. And so you're talking about them, William's talking about them, even I'm talking about them. So then you get artists like Jason who come forward and you sing about the topics you sing about. And the thing I hear time and time again, I see it all the time, is there is no place for politics in rock. Jason, what are your thoughts when someone says that?
Okay, I'm gonna take you on a ride real quick. First off, I'm just gonna talk real quick, go back to that point about the girls, Black women in rock music. There's a couple like objective points I can make, like objective points. This isn't even opinion or bias. So anyone that wants to argue, you're gonna sound crazy because this is actual stats, okay? There's so much trash music out there played by people that aren't Black women. There's so much trash out there. And you've admitted it because you also go and hate on those bands that aren't Black women playing rock music. You go on their page and you hate on them, okay? There's so much trash, but they get the spotlight. They get the representation. They are given the space to play their trash music. Trash, now I'm not even saying it. Y'all said it. Y'all said they're trash. I've seen the comments. Other white people talking to other white people about white people playing rock music, calling it trash. That's objective. They've been given the opportunity, zones and spaces in rock music to play their trash music. But that's what you called it, okay? Black women in rock music have existed and will continue to exist for ages, But you got to understand what it's like to start at -10, go through the gauntlet of the arrows like in Indiana Jones when you're going through the tomb, the axes swinging, the locusts, the fucking words, the structure that was put together to keep these sisters from getting to the door, to the door.
Telling you.
To walk to the door, okay? This is what I'm saying. So getting to the door is a feat. Y'all motherfuckers can get, y'all motherfuckers not only on the door, you in the house eating the food, you in the rooms, you out here doing everything with your trash music, okay? And again, if you're touched by this, it's probably because you're insecure about your music, but I didn't call it trash. Your peers called it trash. I'm using your peers' language against you. So just think about that. The walk to the door by Black women, something me, Will, can't understand. We can't even understand it. You just heard Will's story. That's a up story. But then you got another piece of the intersection for Black women to get to the door. Just think about it. That's all I'm saying. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Objectively speaking, that's all I'm saying. Now me. Now me. Yeah. About the politics in rock music. Yes, it happens so many times. I hear it so many times. But to deny or to strip politics from rock music is negligent because politics created rock music. Rock music was a subversive language to begin with. It evolved as a subversive language. It breathed and is steeped in rebellion and revolt. That is rock music because, again, rock music came from Black people that had nothing and had to create this sound, create this language, create this movement within us. And then we was writing these songs that people like, and they, you know what, they said, well, we can't put y'all on TV, but we could put Elvis on TV. We put Elvis on them. Even with country music, the first, like, the recorded Black country and rock, or I'm sorry, recorded rock and country music are Black artists that we know of are Black artists. They're going as far back to like Bach and Mozart and Beethoven, and they'd be like, oh, you know what? Actually, you motherfuckers actually they might not have been white, because we just found out that Beethoven's mama was Black Muslim. Okay, so look, like all I'm saying is this is just fact. You can't be mad at me for speaking facts. And when you do get mad, that's because you privilege, and that's because you feel as though, going back to questions earlier when we talk about privilege, privilege is a stigmatized word for y'all because you feel as though you don't deserve what you got. We ain't saying you don't deserve it. We're just saying you got it because of this. And once we can say that what it is, once we can speak on what it is, then I think we can move forward. So politics and rock music, especially for Black people, you want to tell us, the people that have literally have politics formed and formulated and structured around us to disadvantage us, then when we want to talk about it, you tell us to shut up, or you tell LeBron James to shut up and dribble, when literally all you've done is impose your politics on us? That's crazy. And that's, again, privilege. So it's cyclical, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I know I sound crazy, and I know that things have been put up to make me sound like an angry Black man. I get it. But I'm going to say what it is, and I'm going to give you facts. So if you can't look at the facts, then we're talking about the wrong thing, Sophie K. We need to talk about the facts before. If we got to talk about rock music, I'm going to say, fuck it. I'm going to talk about the facts. Those come well before rock music. We are Black people before we are Black musicians, straight up. So to ask us to shut up and play, shut up and dribble, shut up and be Black, that's all we are. Blackness is politicized, redlining, you know what I'm saying? Plunder, piracy, using our bodies, using our culture.
Just walking down the street.
Just walking down the street.
Playing as a kid on the playground. Just being in the store.
Absolutely. You see videos right now of young brothers, little, young, beautiful Black bodies hiding. I'm getting emotional talking about it. Hiding behind cars when they see a police officer driving by. Whether or not they've been taught that is not, and don't talk to me about where they live. It is by way of structure and environment. If we create more opportunity for more Black people to do things like in rock music or just in the fucking society, they won't have that fear. And that's everybody's problem. And it became everybody's problem when you took our bodies and you exploited them. That's when it became everybody's problem. We didn't make it your problem. We didn't say, hey, can y'all take us on a boat somewhere so we can work for y'all? We didn't do that. We didn't do that. And then when we came here and we were assimilated into societies and economies, that's when it became your problem. When you exploited and plundered and the piracy you exhibited, that's when it became your problem. So this politics shit, y'all made it your thing. We are just trying to get through it. So let us talk about it so we can get through it, because we can't afford therapy.
And I think, Jason, I think that's a really, some of the things I've taken away from there as well is that as fans, people keep criticizing artists for what they're writing about. And you can't, what are artists going to write about if they're not writing about their experiences? Rock music is supposed to come from the soul. And that is the biggest experience that you are going through at this moment in day-to-day life. And what do people want you to write? A love song? When this is your day-to-day experience. And one of the things that you spoke about there was the police. And I was speaking to Rabab about this, who works for Loudwire, because I am scared to criticize authority figures in the US. I'll be completely honest. I was worried about bringing up any criticism for the police, anyone in authority, because there seems to be this die-hard support. William, do you think there is a problem in the US with being able to criticize authority figures?
There's always been a problem with criticizing authority figures in any country and in any era. And why should it be any different now in the United States? You know, I think some people would make an argument that certain aspects of it are worse now. I don't know. It's hard to, I think you can look back if you take the time to read news articles from 200 years ago or from 50 years ago, you'll see that it's always been difficult. There's always been, there's been an ebb and flow with how difficult, given a particular time, a particular era. But I mean, you can look back on the McCarthy movement or the early civil rights movement, the black lists and the things like that have happened, not just during McCarthy, but in other times too, where it's kept more quiet. It's always difficult, and it's always necessary. And I think to the earlier point about politics and music, or politics and art, again, that's an old argument. And I think it just should be up to the artists. Artists are citizens too. Artists are human beings. You should have the right to do it if you want, or to not do it if you don't want. Billie Holiday wrote Strange Fruit because she wanted to, and she felt she needed to. And it came out and it did what it did. And it ended up becoming a very important record. But I don't think that it becoming an important record or not would have stopped her either way. And I think that's the real thing, is you just do what you do. People can like it or not like it. And all they have to do is, switch the channel or whatever. But to say, oh, you have no right to say this, you have no right to do this. Well, that's just not anyone else's decision to make, period. So, these debates will go on, and Jason will keep doing what he's doing, and I'll keep doing what I'm doing, and Nova Twins will keep doing what they're doing, and the world will keep spinning, what I mean? Yeah.
Over to the Nova Twins, do you think we have that same culture here in the UK where we're afraid to criticize the police?
No, I don't think we're afraid to, but I think the outcomes are the same. We just kind of brush it under the rug, that people think, obviously, oh, Britain's not as bad. You hear people saying that, but it is. It started here, so it's like,
again, with like police brutality, like you see so many reports of it happening here. Police are murdering people, and what are they just better at covering it up here? While people are like, oh, it doesn't happen here, it's just a American issue. But it so happens here that actually cover it up. They get a whole case about it, then they get to be back as police officers again. People are dying all the time. It's just like, just because you don't look for it and it's not headline news because they cover it up so well, it's 100% as bad here, and racism is as bad in the UK.
I think that's a really important point, because I can speak from my side that in the UK, in our very stereotypical way, we go, oh, it'll be all,
it's brushed under the rug.
Oh, I'm sure it's fine. And one of the things I actually saw Ice-T tweeting, he was like, people across the world are protesting our police in America. And I was like, no, we're protesting ours, because all it takes is a quick Google and you can find out how corrupt our police are as well, and how, whether you go back to Stephen Lawrence, Mark Duggan, wherever you're looking through time with our police, they're just as bad, but we're a smaller country and we don't have guns.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's a different approach. Same thing, different approach.
What would you want to see going forward to happen in rock, especially?
Who's this to?
Is
this to the floor?
to you ladies.
Okay.
I think just to diversify the space, to give us a chance, to allow us to help things move forward, because it is getting stale. And I think just to have an open conversation about it. And like you said, you were saying, Sophie, that the audience will be like, well, I'm not a racist. And it feels like a personal attack on them. And I think that's where the defense mechanisms start to come up, and everyone's like, whoa, that's not me. I listen to your music. I love this artist. I love whoever, blah, 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 but I think the point is the educating and acknowledgement of where it comes from, where the artists who contributed, who started the thing. I think if people are educated, then they won't question it. And it's the miseducation is why people are shocked when you call something out, or if you say it, because they're like, well, that's not true. It's because no one's been informed properly half the people haven't been informed. So if we can inform people, give credit where it's due, and then to open up the space, and it starts with the key holders, it starts with the playlist, it starts with the record labels, it starts with the promoters, it starts with all them people who hold the cards, the people who are presenting what is rock, what is this, what is that, what is hip hop, what is that. So I think it's changing the mindset, opening up the conversation, and then diversifying the space once people are informed.
And also like bands and audiences, like bands of like mass followings, book a band of color to be your support, give them a platform, give them a voice, show your audience something different so that we can actually finish where we left off. I mean, the first woman to create rock and roll was Sister Rosetta Tharpe. She was a Black woman, and it's just like she inspired Chuck Berry, Little Richards, who went on to inspire Elvis Presley, the Rolling Stones. So just like it came to this point and then it kind of got missed and then whitewashed. So it's like we need to finish where we left off and continue the growth and actually end up where we should have ended up if we wasn't kind of being banished to do our own thing because they only accepted, you know, white bands into the mainstream, and people were led to believe that they started it all. So we just need to be inclusive and diverse and as one.
Re-educated.
I think you're onto, that's very, very true. And I think you are really on something with calling out the heads of labels, people who are booking festivals, because a lot of people, I know from my experience, I've been turned down for opportunities because women are often seen as, I'm supposed to be a sex symbol. I cannot be knowledgeable. And because white people can't find me sexy, apparently, then I get held back and will be replaced with someone who has less knowledge, but they're male. And that has happened, that you see that especially for Black women within rock time and time again. And that's things that people watching this might not be privy to, that it starts up there. Now, one of the things I heard someone say recently, Jason, was they said, why should I give an opportunity to somebody just because they're Black?
Because you're not racist, right? You're not racist. You keep saying you're not racist. Understand why the opportunity hasn't been granted in the first place, because of racism. So if you're not racist, then don't worry about why. So don't worry about why you should give them opportunity. Worry about why they weren't given opportunity in the first place if you so not racist. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, if you really believe in equity and this thing that we keep touting is equality, if you really believe in that, then prove it. I don't give a what you say. I don't give a what you post about. I don't give a how many Black CDs you have. I'm talking about real opportunity. I'm done. I'm done hearing that bullshit. I really am. And if you're threatened by this, you ain't threatened. You love it when we scream at you or when we're moshing. You love that aggression, but you can't hear a Black person sit here and talk about how frustrated they are, about how they haven't been getting opportunity. And then when we talk about why we should have opportunity, you tell us we're crazy. You can't take that. And you're not racist. The out of here. This is what I'm saying. This is all shit I'm talking about. If you're not racist, if you really believe in the things that you say you do because you herald yourself as a rock-leaning, alternative-leaning person, then don't ask why you should give them an opportunity. Ask why they haven't been. Educate yourself on why they haven't been, and then accept that we need to open up more spaces, because going back to all that trash music that you called trash music that look a lot like you they were given the opportunities. They were given these opportunities to do that and get better, okay? I've seen so many of my white counterparts, and I will say this, make trash music and then make some of the best albums I've ever heard after making that trash music, because they had an opportunity. They didn't have to go through the gauntlet. They didn't have to go through the Temple of Doom. They had a space. They had a space, opportunity given to them to try again. We come out here and you get one shot usually as a Black rock person. You get one. You think if Will came out there and wasn't like so goddamn good at what he does that he'd get another shot? You really think they'd be like, nah, we're gonna try another, let's try him again? No, because we don't have that sort of opportunity. Okay, so, and again, factually, statistically, objectively speaking, you can just go ahead and look at history. all the things you've heard about Black rock and seen in Black rock are the success stories. The success stories. Y'all didn't know about Nova Twins till right now, probably. But they've been here. They've been here. And then a lot of y'all gonna pretend like I was there in the beginning. That's fine, as long as you hear when they crack, and as long as you accept what it is. But you know about the success stories. You don't hear about the tribulation and the turbulent nature of being a Black artist in rock. So again, to your point, Sophie, when people be like, why should I? It's because you keep saying you're not racist and you believe in equality. So understand that equality actually is precipitated by equity. The equality shit, we need equity. I need that. I need more. We need more because we've had so much taken from. If I came to your crib, okay, and I kept taking all your food, okay, I kept going, let me get your bread. Actually, let me get some cheese. Oh, let me get some vegan ham. You know what I'm saying? I kept doing this. I kept pulling this shit from you, okay? And then you wanted to have a dinner with your family and you didn't have no food. You know what I'm saying? You couldn't serve up a proper dinner until you got given more food. You got given more in the first place because you had so much shit taken from you. But then you go to someone's house who not only hasn't had shit taken from them, but in a lot of ways got the other shit a lot easier by way of maybe the supermarket liked them better, or maybe, you know what I'm saying, like the food just was centered. They weren't in a food desert. They can have a nice dinner without having to try that hard. We need more. And that's what it means to not be racist in 2020, is to understand that we need more, and that really you're asking us to be superhuman to start where you start. And then when we do it, it is superhuman and you act like that it wasn't shit. So understanding that not being racist in 2020, after all this, after the history lesson that Will gave us about, 200 years ago and colonialism and conquest, the girls telling us about their experience right now as Black women in rock music. Today in 2020, if you can hear everything we've said and you listen this far and you still walk away from this going, that ain't true, it's your privilege. And I'm sorry to say, but you fall under the category of racist. That's what you fall under. That's straight up, because
for a lot
you're
of people,
co-opting racism. Because racism ain't just saying the N-word. It's not just saying that. This is not, oh my gosh, here we go. I'm about to open up a can of worms. Racism is not just saying the N-word. It's not just calling a woman a B-word or a Black B. It's not just saying things. It's doing things. It's behavior. It's encouraging behavior. It's supporting and propping up and propagating degenerative and racist construct and behavior. You need to actively participate in what you believe to be non-racist action. You have to participate. I don't really give a fuck about one post. It's not enough for me. It's not enough. We need more. So look, when you want to be really not racist and you really want to believe in that equality shit, understand that we need equity first to get there. And you got to partake in that.
Very true. Very true. I think one of the things that you touched on there that I think a lot of people maybe need to look at in themselves is the shame response of the word racist. And they're so overcome by the shame of the word racist that they don't actually, they're too scared defending what was said rather than actually looking at why someone's called it racist and just deconstructing that and deconstructing their behavior and their attitudes and their way of looking at things. William, we're going to finish up with you. And what would you like to see going forward in rock?
Just more great music. I'd like to see, I mean, I come from a time where rock music was, it occupied a larger space in the culture. Guitar-based music occupied a larger space in general. So I'm always going to have a slight predilection of bias toward, that kind of thing. I want to see that kind of energy. It was nice on the Alice Korn tour we did last year to have, I mean, it was nice to have Fever 333 on the shows that we had them on, because that's the kind of energy that I grew up experiencing. I was lucky enough to be part of the first generation of hardcore punk in America and in the world. And, you know, that's another experience I wouldn't trade for anything, to grow up that way. And seeing Fever every night, it kind of evoked a little bit of that feeling. And, you know, seeing cats, you know, that looked like them doing it was a bonus, you know. But I just want to see more excellence, you know. Again, I think we can't, everything that's been said notwithstanding, you know, we always have personal agency and personal choice to allow these things to derail us or not, you know. And, you know, we all probably have friends and family members, for instance, that are in the penal system. You know, I certainly do. I'd be very surprised if Jason doesn't. You know, and even going across the ocean to the Nova Twins. I mean, but certainly in America, this is something that is, you know, it's more unusual to find someone who has no connection in their family to the penal system in America who looks like us than not. So, and I know, speaking from my own experience, that a lot of the people in my family and my friends who got caught up in the system are some of the brightest, most brilliant people that I ever had the privilege of knowing. And some of them aren't here anymore, and some of them are still locked up, and some of them got out and have never been the same, like they've never been able to get anything back on track. And then there's the occasional success story, which is really awesome. But the point is that all of these people got swept up into something, and at every point along the way, there are decisions to be made. Mind you, they're tough decisions. I'm not saying this is easy, but I'm saying that what we have to do is make conscious decisions to not let anything derail us ever. If we want to get what we want to get, then go get it. You know what I mean? Let nothing deny you, you know? And that's, you know, that's what I just want to take away, because we can really get caught up in this thing of like, oh, the system. Yeah, man, it's true. It is true. It is a game. The game is rigged, and it's rigged against poor people of all colors. It's rigged against people of color. It's rigged against, you know, it's rigged, man, you know. But we have our own personal agency at all times. We have power that we often don't tap into, that we must access at all times. We must access it. If you get tired, then you go to whatever well you need to go to draw some more power, man. You know, and dig in, because this we're talking about a story of a people, but we're all individuals too, man. And we have our own stories, and we have our own lives to live as individuals here. And let nothing stand in your way. Let nothing stand in your way.
I think I've got to thank you all, because William, on that point, I know for me personally, I'm a radio DJ over here in the UK, a TV presenter. And so a lot of the time, I don't get to express my opinions in the same ways, because I'm attached to a brand. And so my opinions become that of the brand. And tapping into each of your music is how I find my expression. But the one thing I have said at every table that I've sat at, and I'm normally the only person with any melanin to speak of, every time what I say is, unless we diversify rock, whether you choose to acknowledge it or not, rock is on a decline, in the sense that record labels are not investing in new bands, radio stations are not playing rock bands, there are other genres growing, and we will just have to depend on bands like Alice in Chains until we no longer have an Alice in Chains. But unless we start diversifying rock will stay as it is and keep the same fans. If we want new fans, we have to see more faces. And that's where rock's going to grow.
Yeah, supporting the new gen.
Mm-hmm. And so if you're watching this at home and you're wondering, what can I do? For a start, I think a big part of it is supporting new talent as well, and seeing people that are making a difference and changing up the scene and are representing Nova Twins. I never, ever, ever thought I would see women I'll never forget the first time I saw you guys at a festival, and I was like, oh my God, because it was, and it's, even at my age, it's a big moment to see someone that looks like me.
It was the same when we saw you, though. When we saw you at Download, we were literally like, Sophie! We were literally so excited, because we just felt...
We felt like somebody was on the inside.
Somebody was on our side.
Understand us. In radio, we were like, oh my God, somebody could actually understand how we feel, you know, how it is to be a woman of color.
And not see us for literally like, oh, you are Black women. Yes, we acknowledge each other for being Black women, because there are hardly any on the scene because we don't get let in. But at the same time, knowing that that's not, you're not going to stop us from getting to where we're going because you have the same experience. Whereas we feel obviously we've been stopped in every angle, at every door.
And it's not, I think a lot of people need to understand, it's not, when we're talking about rock here and we're sitting in this group, it's not, oh, we're all Black, you're white, you're out of the club. It's not a case of that. It's a case of, if you can't see it, how can you be it? If you can't see someone that looks like, all of us looked up to someone at some point. And for me, I looked up to white men, but it would have been an easier journey had there been more women for me up to. So
can I say to Will's point real quick, just so for people, because I think Will made an amazing, a really profound point in this subject, right? I think that what Will's saying, now I'll speak to both sides, right? Being mixed too, I think I got like a little bit of playing the fence here, right? For Black people, right? What Will was saying, he's not by any means mitigating or negating our experience. I know when I say shit like what Will just said, some people be like, oh, well, you know what I'm saying? He tripping. Will is saying, you are Black, you are beautiful, you come from a long line of people making something from nothing. Really great shit. Things that the world, around the world, are celebrated. Although we may not be honored, what we feel is proper for what we have done, it has happened. So Will is saying, focus on your self-possession as a Black person as well. And remember how strong you are because you're here today, and make that shit happen. What Will is also saying and I think it was really good that you said this, Will, to our white counterparts in rock music, is understanding that we are not asking for anything outrageous. We're not even really asking for much other than just allowing us to exist on the same plane, because we all want to express ourselves as individuals, our agency within this thing that is supposed to be alternative, and allowing us to do so. I think what Will said was really, really important, and I want to make it very clear that I agree with that as well. And there's by no means is it watering down what we've said earlier, and by no means is it it's attacking people that don't look like us, like Sophie said. I want to make it very clear. We want to exist. We're not out here trying to militarize this Loudwire panel. We're not goddamn, you know what I'm saying? We're not Farrakhaning y'all right now. We're just talking about the facts, talking about our experience. And, you know, I want to say that every single person on this panel has given me perspective and made me look at myself. To our white counterparts, I have to look at myself to this day. And I look back at what I've done. I've said shit that does encourage racist behavior because I wanted to fit in. Straight up. Let me keep it a buck right now. Going home and crying myself to sleep because I should have said something to that person that said the wrong thing about my culture because I wanted to fit in. I was a part of that too. Okay, I'm not completely abandoning my responsibilities. To my white counterparts, I want to learn with you. I want to grow with you. I want to educate and be educated by you on things that maybe I need to understand so that you can understand better. Let's do this shit together. But we need a space to do it. So if for those people that believe, just let us in so we can have the conversation. Because we're going to take our agency, like Will said. We're going to do it whether you like it or not. Maybe we got to do it somewhere else. But we're going to do this because we come from a long line of people making really, really strong choices to survive. And we're going to do that here too. So why don't we do that shit together? That's what we're saying.
Definitely. And Sophie, you always touch on talking about the audiences that we play to and who buy the music. They listen to music and receive it how it is. Every time we've turned up on a festival, there's never been a problem with the audience. We've been accepted fully. And again, just going back to the gatekeepers that need to be held accountable. They are the people that are stopping the connection. They're stopping the growth because they're not allowing us in. And that's the space we're trying to diversify. Because the audience, the only reason why we've been a band for like nearly 7 years, BLM has pushed us on a little bit more now, but like we've been there, you know, but if there was no audience supporting us, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. Obviously, we're not like a massive band or anything, but the point is, really want to open the space and hold the gatekeepers accountable, you know, and that's what we need to be doing.
Something somebody in Skindred actually said to me, and it was a white person, which made all the difference, is they said, the problem with racism in rock is that same guy who will put a hand down to pull up the black kid in the mosh pit will also cross the road when he sees a bunch of black kids or judge a black person at work. And that's where we need to look at ourselves in rock, because racism has many, many different levels. So thank you all to you for having this conversation, for being so open, and thank you for making the music that you make and being the people who are making a difference in rock.
And thank you.
Thank you, you queen. Celebrate. I say this every time. I'm going to say it right now again. Y'all need to celebrate Sophie K, our beautiful black-skinned queen in rock music.
Yes.
I don't know how that makes you feel, but it should make you feel happy. It should make you feel like you should do it because she is a queen. She is existing in a space that is so exclusive and at times dangerous and hard, and to do it with such grace, like our man Obama did, like Will was saying, to do it such grace in such a space. We have to celebrate her. We have to celebrate Nova Twins. We have to celebrate our black women. We have to do that. That's a whole ass other panel we should be doing. So please celebrate Sophie K. Please understand why, and just look at what even if you just look at objectively, look at what she does for rock music, because she loves it. She loves rock music. Okay, I just had to say that. I know I keep going, but
so much love.
Thank you.
Gee.
Well, thank
Know
you.
how we feel about you.
We love you, Sophie.